Okay, let's try and unpack this. Have you ever looked out at the universe? From the tiniest atom humming with energy, right up to these vast galaxies swirling across billions of light years, and just found yourself wondering, what really holds it all together?
Hmm.
I mean, beyond the gravity we all learn about, beyond those fundamental forces from physics class, is there something deeper? Some kind of unifying principle weaving it all into existence, and maybe even more importantly, keeping it stable?
It's a fundamental question, isn't it? And it's been around forever for philosophers, physicists.
A true grand mystery.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating here, and what we're really going to get into today, is this truly groundbreaking new paper. It's by Philip Randolph Lilien, just published this year.
Okay.
It's titled Resonant Cohesion and Coherence Reduction, a unified framework of dynamic order across scales and dimensions. And well, this paper doesn't just offer a minor tweak to existing theories. It proposes a really radical shift in how we might understand the very fabric of reality.
Radical how?
It challenges some of our most deeply held scientific beliefs about what's truly fundamental.
Yeah.
What comes first?
Right. And that's our mission for this deep dive then. To journey into this incredible framework, we're going to try and understand how everything from that spooky action at a distance of quantum entanglement
Yeah.
to how biological systems manage to regulate themselves so intricately, and even how massive galaxies form, how all of that might be linked by this thing Lilien calls coherence, and maybe even more importantly, its reduction.
Exactly. The reduction part is key.
So yeah, get ready for some potentially serious aha moments, because this perspective, it really feels like it could fundamentally alter how you see the world around you.
It could. And this deep dive, it should guide you through a really profound reinterpretation of concepts you probably thought you knew pretty well. We'll need to move beyond the traditional ideas of symmetry and forces.
Which are so foundational in physics.
Right. But we'll explore how coherence reduction is being proposed here, not just as a mechanism, but as the actual generative engine of the universe.
The engine itself.
The engine itself. And this engine, it leads to these stable relational patterns that then result in what we've previously observed and, label as resonance and cohesion.
Ah, okay. So those become outcomes, not starting points.
Precisely. This paper isn't just tweaking existing models. It's presenting a completely new ontological substrate for reality itself, a new foundation.
Okay, so for so long, our understanding of the universe, especially in physics, has really been built on this beautiful, elegant concept of symmetry.
Right. Absolutely. It's everywhere.
You think about the conservation laws, energy, momentum. They all stem from these deep underlying symmetries. And quantum field theories, too, they have symmetry as their absolute bedrock. It explains stability, structure.
And when symmetry breaks, that's often seen as the creative moment, right? Where new particles or forces emerge.
Exactly. A break in symmetry is seen as the origin of form, a kind of perturbation that creates specifics out of a uniform state. But what if there's something even more fundamental, something that comes before symmetry entirely?
And that's precisely the radical departure this paper proposes. It suggests that symmetry, while yes, undeniably crucial and obviously a feature we observe everywhere,
Can't deny that.
it isn't the ultimate starting point. It's actually a product. It's an emergent feature of a deeper, more primary process.
Okay, so what is the starting point then?
The true engine of reality's unfolding, the ontological substrate, as Lilien calls it, the very foundational stuff of being, is what he defines as coherence. And crucially, coherence reduction.
Coherence and coherence reduction.
Yes. So it's not that symmetry breaks to produce form. Instead, the idea is that coherence reduces in a structured way, and in doing so, it yields the patterns we recognize as symmetry.
Wow. Okay, we need to unpack those terms then. Coherence, what does that mean in this context? It's not just waves lining up, is it?
No, not at all. That's the common sort of simplified physics definition. Here, the paper frames coherence as something much grander. The foundational field condition of unified phase and resonance underlying all emergence.
The foundational field condition.
It's vast. It represents ontological unity prior to differentiation. Imagine like a perfectly still, pristine ocean before a single wave or ripple appears. Every possible wave, every current, every pattern that could exist is somehow contained within that initial stillness, perfectly superimposed. All potential relationships and forms exist simultaneously without being distinct parts yet.
So it's pure potential.
In a way, yes. Lilien describes it as the invariant omnilectic field that underlies all dimensionality, all force interactions, and all material expressions. It's, in a very deep sense, everything before anything specific becomes manifest.
Okay, and then coherence reduction, that's the action
Yeah.
part.
That's the dynamic mechanism, yes. The active process that kind of breathes life into the universe. It's defined as the process by which a unified coherence field transitions into differentiated structures through selective loss of coherence, leading to resonance, symmetry, and dimensionality.
Selective loss.
Yeah.
So it's not random?
No, not random decay or chaotic collapse. It's presented as a structured, directed, almost creative transition, like a sculptor carefully removing material to reveal the form inside.
Or a musician damping certain frequencies.
Exactly, to create a harmony. This selective reduction is framed as the ongoing creative act of the universe.
So, if I'm getting this right, instead of starting with symmetry and its breakdowns, which, has been our scientific bedrock for ages, we're starting with this hypercoherence, this utterly undivided, invariant, maybe even dimensionless state.
Which the paper models as the universal field tensor, the UFT.
Right, the UFT.
Yeah.
And then through this process of selective coherence reduction, this hyperfield just cascades down into everything we see and experience, from basic particles to giant cosmic structures. It sounds very top-down, generative rather than bottom-up assembly. Is that the core idea?
Precisely. You've absolutely hit on the core distinction there. The paper states it very clearly, and this is really a foundational quote to keep in mind. Where resonance aligns, cohesion emerges. Where coherence reduces, structure is born.
Okay, say that again.
Where resonance aligns, cohesion emerges. Where coherence reduces, structure is born.
Right.
That's the fundamental shift. It's moving away from symmetry breaks to produce form towards coherence reduces in structured gradients, yielding resonance patterns that appear as symmetry.
Which fundamentally redefines how reality organizes itself.
Exactly. It presents a dynamic, unfolding universe driven by this underlying active coherence.
Yeah.
It's not a passive stage. It's the active principle of creation and persistence.
This feels like a monumental conceptual leap. It's almost philosophical, like physics meeting metaphysics. Yeah. But grounded in, well, hopefully some math we'll touch on.
Oh, absolutely. There's a formal structure underpinning this. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it, what this means for terms we thought we understood so well, like resonance and cohesion.
Yeah, because usually resonance is just, things vibrating in sync, a wine glass shattering, and cohesion is just stuff sticking together like glue. But this framework seems to give them a much bigger, more fundamental role, almost an active one.
You're right to point that out, because the paper definitely redefines these terms in profoundly active and fundamental ways. Resonance, for instance, it's reframed not just as simple vibratory alignment, but as the manifest harmonic of coherence reduction itself.
A manifest harmonic.
Yeah, it's described as the vibratory pattern that emerges from coherence reduction and aligns elements into stable structures. It actually functions as a coherence projection across scale.
So it's not just vibration, it's the signature of coherence becoming differentiated, the language it speaks.
That's a great way to put it. It's the echo, the signature, the language of that fundamental coherence in its now differentiated state. It's the very way coherence makes itself manifest and creates stable patterns. And resonant cohesion then just naturally follows from that. It's defined as the structural alignment and binding of systems across scales resulting from coherence reduction. And here's the kicker. Cohesion is a consequence, not a cause of resonance.
Ah, okay. That is a crucial distinction. Usually we think of forces causing cohesion.
Right. We treat cohesion as, in effect, intermolecular forces, gravity acting like glue. But here, things don't just stick together, they cohere because their underlying coherence has reduced in such a way that allows them to resonate in a stable, structured pattern.
So a molecule doesn't just bind together randomly. It exists because it's a coherent resonating system maintaining its phase alignment.
Exactly. Its stability comes from that resonant alignment, which is a direct consequence of the coherence reduction pathway it followed.
So essentially, everything holds together from the smallest particle to the biggest galaxy, not by chance, not by some brute static force, but by this specific, active, coherence-driven design. It's a truly unified vision, isn't it? Claiming to bridge physics, biology, information theory, even consciousness, all under this single coherence-based ontology.
It's an incredibly bold claim suggesting a universal language for how reality is woven together.
Yeah.
And the paper really argues that this framework does allow us to bridge those previously distinct domains under a single, elegant, coherence-based ontology. It suggests that how a cell membrane dynamically resists entropy.
Right, by all
And
that.
how galaxies are bound not just by visible mass, but by what it calls coherence-informed hypergravity.
Cosmology.
They're both expressions of the same fundamental principle, a reality where everything is held together by active design through coherence reduction and resonant cohesion across all scales.
That's where it's really interesting, isn't it?
It is, because it starts offering potential answers to long-standing questions that different fields have struggled with on their own, suggesting a single principle might underpin it all. ##2. Coherence as the ontological generator.
Okay, let's dig into this concept of coherence being the ontological generator. That sounds incredibly fundamental, like the stuff from which everything else actually emerges, right? The primordial soup, but maybe infinitely more organized.
Exactly. But maybe even more fundamental than stuff, before symmetry, before dimension, before any recognizable form or force, the paper posits coherence as this foundational generator.
Okay.
It's not a property of systems, like something you measure. It's the generative condition of existence itself. It's described as a phase-invariant omnifield that precedes space, time, matter, and energy.
Wow. Precedes space and time.
That's the idea. In this model, coherence isn't just a background condition, it is the origin. And everything that emerges is just a structured modulation of its reduction. Think of it as like the ultimate state of maximal potential, the infinite canvas reality paints itself on.
Okay, that's huge. What are its core characteristics then? How is it described?
Well, they're truly mind-bending. Firstly, it's described as omnilectic.
Omnilectic.
Yeah, imagine a cosmic orchestra where every possible note, every chord, every melody is being played simultaneously, perfectly superimposed, creating this unified, undifferentiated sound, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
That's omnilectic. It contains all phase relations, all potential relationships simultaneously. No distinctions yet, but all potential for distinction exists within its seamless unity.
Got it. What else?
Secondly, it's scale invariant. This means the same fundamental principles of coherence and its reduction apply equally at the tiniest quantum level within complex biological systems, across vast cosmological structures, and even potentially at conceptual levels of information.
So the universe really does rhyme, as they say.
It seems to, according to this, and maybe most profoundly, it's non-local. It's not bounded by space-time. Instead, it generates space-time through its phase and frequency actualization.
Generates space-time.
It's everywhere and nowhere all at once. It's the source from which locality emerges. And this pre-structural, omnicoherent field holding all this potential is formally modeled as the universal field tensor UFT.
The UFT.
Right? Think of it as the master blueprint, the undivided source from which all structured domains are projected. And these projections happen through what the paper calls partial coherence reduction, a selective, structured shedding of its unified state.
And these projections are what we experience.
Exactly. They manifest as everything we observe. Symmetry, like the gauge symmetries governing particle interactions. Space-time itself emerging as metric reductions of this field. Mass, not just a property, but a kind of coherence condensation, a specific packing.
Coherence condensation, I like that.
Energy, understood as the directed flow of coherence along a gradient. And even information, which is described as quantized reduction of coherence, a specific pattern encoded within the field.
Okay, so if coherence is this fundamental generator, how does it relate to order and disorder as we usually think of them? You know, the whole entropy thing, universe tending towards chaos. Does this framework just ignore thermodynamics?
That's a crucial question. And the paper makes a really critical distinction here. Coherence, order. Coherence, order.
Okay, so coherence isn't order itself, but it leads to it.
Precisely. Order is a derivative appearance, an outcome. Coherence is the pre-ontological generative condition. Where coherence reduces in these self-similar fractal pathways, stable order emerges. But where it fragments randomly, or maybe without structured feedback,
Then you get chaos.
then chaos emerges. So coherence isn't just the generator of structured systems, it's also the dynamic source behind their transformations, and yeah, their potential for disorder too. And this perspective also profoundly reframes negentropy, you know, that tendency towards order, often seen as a bit mysterious in a universe supposedly ruled by entropy.
Yeah, how does life resist entropy, for example?
Exactly. In traditional thermodynamics, creating order, negentropy, is statistically unlikely, requires energy input from outside. But in this framework, negentropy, defined as the structured return or reinforcement of coherence via system-level feedback, is actually a natural result of these nested coherence gradients.
Natural. How so?
Because these gradients inherently seek to realign themselves through resonant feedback. It's built into the system. This could explain how biological systems actively resist entropy and maintain complexity, how consciousness maintains continuity over time, how stars and galaxies persist for billions of years. They aren't necessarily fighting some universal decay. They're following inherent coherent pathways driven by a kind of innate memory of their coherent origin.
An innate memory.
Oh, wow.
Okay, what about forces then? Are gravity, electromagnetism, are they also just appearances of coherence rather than fundamental entities?
Yes, that's another key reinterpretation. The paper suggests that what we perceive as a coherence gradient isn't a classical force like a push or pull between particles. It's more like a modulation of coherence density across a system.
A coherence density.
Yeah, and this modulation induces directional flows of structure formation. So rather than forces acting on matter, it's more like matter condenses where coherence is concentrated, waves emerge where it's distributed, dimensions unfold where these differentials intersect.
So the forces are just descriptions of how coherence behaves in different situations.
Essentially, yes. This reframes the conventional force fields: gravitational, electromagnetic, strong, weak. They're seen as resonant apparitions of coherence field modulation. Each force is just a different mode of coherence reduction behavior, governed by specific resonance patterns and the geometry of the coherence tensor itself.
So gravity is one tune the coherence field plays, electromagnetism is another.
That's a great analogy. Gravity is how coherence reduces to create space-time curvature. Electromagnetism is a different mode, manifesting as charge in fields. It's all just the coherence field expressing itself differently. And to sum up this really profound section, the paper offers this incredibly concise, almost poetic formulation. Coherence is the ontological constant.
Okay.
All phenomena are its reductions.
Right.
All structure is its resonance.
Okay.
All perception is its phase.
Wow. That collapses the whole universe into a single dynamic principle.
It really does. It's a powerful statement. #3, coherence reduction and dimensional emergence.
Okay, this naturally leads us into one of the most, well, mind-bending aspects of this paper, how our reality with its dimensions, its forces, actually comes into being. The paper says dimensionality doesn't pre-exist, right?
Right.
It unfolds through coherence reduction. That's really hard to grasp compared to thinking of space and time as fixed containers.
It truly is a different way of thinking. And it's not just semantics. In this view, coherence reduction is explicitly not entropic decay, not random collapse. It's described as a generative modulation that selectively differentiates that unified coherence field.
Generative.
Yes. This process releases degrees of freedom, but not into chaos. It releases them into structured resonance. And this structured resonance is proposed as the very origin of physical laws, the axes of space, and the quantized entities, particles, charges that make up our universe.
It's an active, creative, highly organized unfolding.
Exactly. And the paper even outlines two fundamental modes of coherence reduction, which helps explain the sheer diversity of things we see. First, there's partial coherence reduction.
Partial.
Yeah, think of this as a kind of gentle, continuous loosening of coherence. This generates continuous fields, like the curvature of space-time or the fundamental field symmetries governing particle interactions, like the subtle rolling surface of a deep ocean.
Okay, continuous fields. And the second mode?
That's quantized coherence reduction. This is more like a discrete, maybe even sudden snap in coherence. This generates distinct quantifiable forms, the specific values of mass, the individuality of particles, the exact magnitude of electric charge, like individual drops of water breaking off a wave crest.
Oh, okay. Continuous versus discrete.
Right. And what's really fascinating is that these two pathways aren't separate. They're intimately entangled. So, for instance, the appearance of mass. It isn't just spontaneous symmetry breaking in the standard model sense. Here, it arises from a quantized coherence gradient that is nested within a partially reduced field geometry, like space-time itself.
Nested within, so they work together.
Precisely. It suggests a deeply interconnected, layered process of emergence. The continuous and the discrete are born from the same fundamental process of coherence reduction, operating in tandem, not opposition.
So dimensions aren't just empty boxes we exist inside. They're more like projection layers. Dynamic results of this coherence unfolding, like a choreographed dance.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. In this framework, dimensional emergence isn't pre-existent. It follows this coherent cascade from the UFT, the source,
Right.
moving through these resonant pathways and then into specific symmetry fields. Each dimension isn't a fixed, empty thing, but rather a coherence resonance vector.
A coherence resonance vector.
Yeah, defined by its particular phase space reduction and its unique set of allowed vibratory patterns. And this dimensional unfolding, the paper details, happens in stages, building complexity. It starts with 0D pure port coherence, the undifferentiated seed.
Okay.
This gives rise to 1D manifesting as linear resonance, like a single vibrating string or a fundamental coherence vector. Then 2D involving rotational coherence, like a ripple expanding on a pond.
Getting more complex.
Then 3D, perceived as spatial tension, geometry, volume coherence, our familiar 3 dimensions. Then 4D, representing temporal unfolding, phase coherence over time, the flow we call time.
And it stops there.
Okay. No. The framework even extends to ND, suggesting higher-order coherence constructs. Things like information, consciousness, maybe even morphogenetic codes could be seen as higher dimensions of coherence.
Wow, okay.
So the critical conclusion is truly profound. The universe does not live in dimensions. It generates them through this structured unfolding.
It generates them. Okay, that changes everything.
It really does. And this leads to the grand idea of coherence cascades and dimensional stratification. As coherence reduces, it does so in these distinct hierarchical layers. Each layer introduces new types of resonance and emergent features.
Like peeling an onion almost.
Sort of, but maybe more like a waterfall cascading down levels. It starts with the UFT layer, pure, undivided coherence, the source.
Okay.
This gives rise to the gradient layer, where the first subtle coherence differentials appear, creating the hypergravity field, the initial guiding influence.
Hypergravity, we'll come back to that.
We will. Next, the resonance layer, involving structured vibration, giving rise to the familiar gauge symmetry fields U1, SU2, SU3, governing the fundamental forces.
Right, the standard model symmetries.
Exactly. Then the quantization layer, where discrete emergence happens, creating fermions and bosons, the building blocks of matter. And finally, the dimensional layer, our local projection, forming the observable space-time structure we experience, with all its specific physical laws.
So this implies that everything we perceive is fundamental dimensions, symmetries, mass, energy, they're all just echoes of coherence loss, stabilized through resonance. Is that fair?
That's a very poetic and accurate way to put it, yes.
So what does this mean for physical laws then? Are they just descriptions of these echoes?
It transforms our view. Physical laws aren't seen as external imposed rules dictating reality. Instead, they're interpreted as resonant harmonics stabilized within a coherence cascade.
So they emerge from the process.
They're inherent patterns arising from the structured unfolding of coherence, not arbitrary decrees. Like the rules emerging from a complex fractal pattern, they are the pattern's behavior. Systems that maintain structured coherence follow these laws naturally. Systems that exceed their coherence thresholds, they fragment.
It's a dynamic, self-organizing system where the rules are baked in.
Precisely, baked into the very process of creation and persistence.
Okay, so if coherence reduces into form, how does it stay stable? Why doesn't it just dissipate? This is where the paper introduces hypergravity, right? You said it's different from Einstein's gravity. How different?
Very different. Conventional gravity, Einstein's general relativity, is space-time curvature caused by mass energy. But this framework argues that model, while incredibly powerful descriptively,
Undeniably powerful.
it lacks a deeper ontological grounding because it takes space-time, mass, and energy as givens without explaining their emergence. Hypergravity here is not a classical force that just pulls mass. It's defined as a coherence-aligning, phase-guiding field.
Phase guiding.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actively modulates coherence gradients and organizes structural emergence. It's like the universe's internal GPS system, ensuring things form and stay aligned correctly.
Okay, so what are the key differences then?
They're profound. Unlike conventional gravity, hypergravity originates directly from coherence differential curvature within the UFT itself, the source.
So it's more fundamental.
Much more. And critically, it operates prior to space-time and beyond dimensional limits. It's not bound by the rules of the universe it helps create.
Wow.
And instead of attracting mass, it orients phase space structures to stay aligned with these nested coherence gradients. So the gravitational effects we observe, mass attraction, orbits, galaxy stability, are described as a derivative illusion of deeper coherence alignment activity.
An illusion. Or maybe a shadow.
A shadow, a macroscopic manifestation of this more fundamental, universal coherence organization. That's a good way to think about it.
So it's like a universal compass then,
Yeah.
ensuring everything lines up correctly as it emerges from coherence, keeping the whole unfolding universe on track, like a cosmic alignment system.
Yes, that's an excellent analogy. Hypergravity provides the resonant reference frame for systems to stabilize their local coherence. It acts like a directional compass within the phase manifold of the universe, guiding the flow of emergence.
How does it do that?
Well, it ensures synchronized spin fields across symmetry layers. It makes sure quantum fluctuations realign constructively. And crucially, it ensures macroscopic systems, stars, cells, maybe even societies, maintain phase correspondence with higher order coherence layers.
Or so it connects different scales.
Exactly. This ubiquitous feedback mechanism, ensuring alignment, is what preserves negentropy and enables continuous adaptation. It's like an intrinsic self-correction mechanism for the universe. And the paper even provides a symbolic representation, hinting at the math behind it. We don't need to get lost in the symbols.
Please no.
Right. But the key idea is HAGS is the hypergravity field, ADG is the coherence gradient operator, and ADG is the potential related to the system's internal coherence. It just shows hypergravity isn't just a philosophical idea, it's proposed as a quantifiable field, a mathematical function of how coherence changes.
Okay, good to know the math exists, even if we skim it.
And when we look at nested alignment and resonant stability, we see hypergravity's effects everywhere. Systems stay stable only if they're coherently aligned across these nested layers. Hypergravity maintains this through fractal coupling across scales atom to molecule to tissue,
Right.
through phase harmonic stabilizing motion like planetary orbits or circadian rhythms, and through tensor synchronization preserving integrity across fields like in particle physics or even the DNA double helix. And these effects potentially explain some big mysteries. Why do galaxies hold together without enough visible mass? Maybe dark matter is actually this coherence curvature guided by hypergravity.
Ah, so dark matter isn't necessarily a particle.
Maybe not. Or why do biological systems resist entropy? Perhaps through bioelectric field alignment guided by these principles. Why does time dilate at high speeds? Maybe it's coherence field distortion, a local bending of this deeper fabric.
Okay, this is connecting a lot of dots, potentially. But this raises a huge question. If hypergravity aligns phase and coherence, what does this mean for observation? Especially in quantum mechanics, where the observer seems to collapse the wave function just by looking.
This is one of the most fascinating implications. The paper suggests hypergravity plays a direct, active role in the observer function. Observation isn't passive measurement causing a collapse. It's understood as active coherence modulation.
Active modulation by the observer.
The observer isn't just looking. They are perhaps unconsciously aligning with hypergravity fields to select specific coherence reductions within the UFT. Quantum measurement is reinterpreted not as a collapse, but as coherence pathway selection through resonant phase locking.
So the observer is a local coherence agent.
Exactly, and hypergravity provides the universal alignment matrix for this selection process. It's not about measurement causing something. It's about observation tuning into a specific coherent reality that was already potentialized.
Recasts the measurement problem entirely.
It does. So let's just quickly summarize the core shifts here. Old view, gravity curve spacetime. New view, hypergravity aligns coherence fields.
Oh.
Old. Mass attracts mass. New. Coherence condenses via gradient alignment.
Right.
Old. Observation collapses the wave function. New. Observation selects the coherence reduction pathway. Old. Time is an external dimension. New. Time is emergent from phase rhythm alignment. Old. Space is a backdrop. New. Space is a projection of coherence differentials.
It's a complete remapping of the foundation.
It truly is, offering a potentially unified explanation for things that seemed very separate before.
Okay, we touched on resonance earlier, defining it as the manifest harmonic of coherence reduction. But the paper also calls it the language of coherence loss. That's such an evocative phrase. What exactly does that mean? Is it like a universal communication system?
In a way, yes. It means resonance isn't just a byproduct, an accident of matter vibrating. It's the fundamental way coherence modulates itself as it reduces, as it differentiates from that unified state.
How it expresses itself.
Exactly. It doesn't just fragment randomly. It pulses, it oscillates in structured, patterned ways. And that structure oscillation is what we perceive as the vibratory nature of reality everywhere. From quantum wave functions governing particles to intricate biological cycles in living things, even the majestic celestial harmonics of planets orbiting stars. It's the dynamic signature of the universe's ongoing creation. It's the song the universe sings as it differentiates itself into form.
The song of differentiation. I like that.
And this framework sees resonance as a vital coherence translation function. Think of it as the universe's universal translator. It mediates between the infinite unified state, pure coherence, and the discrete differentiated state, emergent form.
So it bridges the gap.
It does. It acts like a transductive membrane between those two states, allowing information and structure to flow. So resonance actively translates coherence gradients into these phase-locked waveforms, creating stable patterns. It stabilizes transitional states, preventing them from just collapsing into chaos.
Right.
And crucially, it encodes coherence memory. It preserves the negentropic directionality, the lineage, back to the original coherence, almost like a genetic code for reality itself. The paper states it very directly and powerfully. Resonance, coherence, memory.
Resonance equals coherence memory.
Yes. It's how the universe remembers its origins, its blueprints, and how it actively strives, in a sense, to return to that coherent source.
So if resonance is this coherence memory, does that mean everything with a stable form, atomic orbitals, the way elements behave, even our own brainwaves, is essentially a resonant basin, kind of harmonic attractor state? A preferred pattern for coherence.
Precisely. You've captured it beautifully. When coherence reduces along these preferred stable pathways, the system falls into these resonant basins. These are stable harmonic attractor states.
Okay.
And they're stabilized by what the paper calls coherence eigenmodes. These are distinct solutions to the underlying coherence field equations. The paper even gives a symbolic form, C, which again hints at the math.
Right, the eigenvalues.
Exactly. C is the coherence field operator, is the system state, and eigen is the coherence eigenvalue, effectively a resonant stability parameter. And these eigenvalues govern the existence and stability of pretty much everything structured. Atomic orbitals, not just fuzzy clouds, but precisely tuned, coherence-aligned standing waves. Molecular bonds, stable because their vibration modes are phase-locked by coherence. On larger scales, standing wave patterns inside stars governing fusion, or the phase-locked brainwave frequencies underpinning cognition. Systems with stable eigenvalues persist. Those with diverging ones, they decay, they fragment, they lose their coherent identity.
And this happens at all scales, nested within each other.
Yes, that's the concept of nested resonance in complex systems. All structured systems show this hierarchy. Atoms have electron orbital resonance. Molecules have vibrational and rotational modes phase-locked by coherence. Cells have metabolic and genetic oscillations stabilized by coherent fields.
Brains have waveband synchrony.
Exactly, across different regions, crucial for thought. And even galaxies have spiral arms seen as phase-locked structures resonating with deeper dark matter scaffolds. Each layer is a resonance node within a greater coherence harmonic, all resonating together in this complex, unified hierarchy.
So what happens if this resonant mediation fails? If the language of coherence breaks down, does everything just fall apart like an orchestra playing out of tune?
Yes, exactly like that. The paper describes this as coherence collapse versus resonant reconstitution. Not all coherence reduction succeeds in creating stable resonance. If resonance fails to mediate that critical transition, systems experience coherence collapse.
And what does that look like?
It results in a whole range of destructive phenomena. At the smallest scales, quantum decoherence, quantum weirdness vanishes. In living systems, biological breakdown, cell death, disease, aging, macroscopically, structural failure, star death, system entropy, maybe even societal disarray.
Okay, but there's a flip side, resonant reconstitution.
Yes, and this is the powerful counterpoint. When resonance is successful, it produces incredibly positive outcomes. It leads to cohesion, the resonant binding of structures. It enables negentropy, the active feedback resisting disorder. And it fosters adaptation systems actively realigning themselves through resonant retuning, evolving.
So it's a dynamic balance.
It is. And this interplay illustrates the resonant resilience principle. A system's stability is proportional to its coherence resonance capacity. The better a system is at maintaining and restoring its resonance, the more stable, adaptive, and persistent it will be. And taking another bold step, this framework even reinterprets the fundamental forces electromagnetic, weak, strong, gravitational as specific resonance conditions of the coherence field.
Not separate forces, but resonance conditions.
Yes. For example, U1, symmetry, electromagnetism, is seen as linear coherence resonance, SU2, weak force, as torsional resonance modes, SU3, strong force, as color phase resonance topology, and gravity as macro-resonant alignment via hypergravity gradients. It suggests forces are just resonance-specific coherence reductions embedded within dimensional projection, different manifestations of the same coherent reality.
So resonance isn't just a passive physical phenomenon. It's like the living, dynamic expression of coherence itself. The pulse of reality becoming manifest, always striving for harmony.
That's it, exactly. Resonance isn't secondary to coherence. It is coherence in motion, in negotiation, becoming form. It's the active principle allowing the underlying unity to express itself in the multitude of forms we see, ensuring stability, enabling adaptation, perpetually generating existence. It's the universe dancing itself into being, holding that steady beat.
Okay, so following the chain, coherence is the root, resonance is the language translating it into form, which means cohesion is the final outcome, the structure that holds everything together. But you said earlier it's not just a static binding force, right? It sounds much more dynamic, almost like an active, intelligence-maintaining form.
Exactly. That's a key shift in thinking. In this framework, cohesion isn't static, like glue. It's described as the resonant signature of coherence successfully reduced into form. It's the way systems remain structured over time, across all scales.
The resonant signature.
Yes. Conventionally, we think of cohesion as, in effect, forces pulling things together. But here, cohesion is the resonance, continuously stabilized through active coherence alignment. It's dynamic, not passive. And defining resonant cohesion, the paper says it emerges when three crucial things happen. 1, a coherence gradient reduces in phase-consistent patterns organized energy information dissipation.
Okay.
2, the resulting structures resonate within their coherence envelope, creating stable vibratory patterns.
Yeah, resonant basins.
Exactly. And 3, constant feedback mechanisms actively maintain alignment with the original coherence field. This leads to a much more nuanced dynamic definition. Cohesion is the resonance-preserved structure of coherence reduction. It's field-encoded, not force-based. A persistent pattern of sustained phase resonance, continually refreshed. And again, for those interested in the formal side, the paper talks about cohesion as a tensorial condition. It uses a coherence tensor field, TSER in check. Now, the math isn't the main point here, but the tensor describes the strength, orientation, and persistence of this resonant alignment across a field. It shows cohesion is quantifiable, directional, measurable. And this formalism helps explain things that are tricky otherwise. Why atoms stay stably bound in molecules, why galaxies keep their spiral shapes despite dark matter complexities, why biological systems show such incredible resilience, constantly self-repairing. Cohesion is seen as a coherence matrix condition, not just interactions between parts.
So definitely not just static glue. It's dynamic, adaptive. Does that mean systems can actively adjust themselves to maintain cohesion? Almost like they have an innate intelligence guiding them back to balance.
Absolutely. That's the core of dynamic cohesion and adaptive realignment. Cohesion isn't fixed. Systems actively maintain coherence via resonant adaptation, making continuous micro-adjustments to restore alignment when things change, internally or externally.
Can you give examples?
Sure. Think about protein folding. Functional proteins can resonance with their molecular fields, ensuring the right shape. Misfolded ones lose that coherence alignment, leading to disease. Or ecosystems. Predator-prey balances maintain ecological resonance. Disruptions can cause collapse if resonance isn't restored. In our brains, neural assemblies dynamically align coherence for memory and thought amidst constant change. This dynamic ability is the adaptive cohesion principle. A system's integrity is a function of its ability to realign with its coherence resonance. Constant active maintenance.
And does this happen across scales too, like the resonance?
Yes, it operates fractal dimensionally, fractal and hierarchical cohesion. Local resonance patterns are embedded within higher scale structures, creating a seamless nested hierarchy. This leads to things like self-similarity, neuron branching, mirroring river deltas or galaxies,
Wow.
and harmonic entrainment between layers, like heart-brain coherence, where heart rhythms influence brain activity. This fractal cohesion isn't just spatial, it's resonant temporal. Systems stay aligned over time by maintaining phase harmony across nested coherence layers, always referencing their deeper origins.
So what happens when this dynamic cohesion breaks down? Is that what we see as decay, disease, chaos, a loss of this coherent integrity?
Yes, precisely. The paper describes this as collapse, fragmentation, and the limits of cohesion. When a system gets pushed beyond its coherence resonance threshold, its cohesion becomes unstable. Feedback misaligns, phase lock is lost.
And the consequence.
The whole range. Quantum decoherence at the small scale, biological decay or disease in living systems, sociological or economic collapse in human systems, cosmic fragmentation like supernovae on the largest scales. These aren't anomalies, they're resonance failures, where coherence degraded below the threshold needed for stable cohesion.
So cohesion isn't just a result after form is made. It's what enables form to persist, to actively maintain itself. It really is the invisible architecture of reality.
Precisely. It's the crystallization of resonance born from coherence, sustained by feedback. It's constantly working to maintain the integrity of all structured systems, from quark to cosmos, moment by moment, the persistent pattern holding it all together.
Okay, if entropy is that seemingly inevitable march towards disorder, towards chaos, this paper offers a really refreshing counterpoint: negentropy. But it's not just resisting entropy, right? It's framed as active coherence recovery. That sounds almost like the universe has a built-in self-healing function.
That's exactly right. Negentropy here isn't just the mathematical opposite of entropy or a statistical fluke. It's actively defined as the structured return of coherence, a positive rate of coherence reconstitution over time. Symbolically, negentropy caught.
Okay.
This means systems with these coherent feedback mechanisms can actively rephase, retune, and realign their structures to recover lost coherence and restore order. They have inherent capabilities, like repairing damage, think biological healing, tissue regeneration, resynchronizing like neural entrainment during sleep or meditation, recovering phase like quantum recoherence effects, and self-regulating like ecosystem homeostasis or climate regulation.
Yeah.
They're not passively decaying, they're actively fighting disorder by restoring coherence. And these feedback loops in coherent systems are absolutely fundamental to how this works. Coherent systems aren't static. They operate as dynamic feedback-modulated circuits. Their structure allows them to detect deviations from their optimal phase alignment. They then send a corrective signal back through resonance harmonics and actively realign themselves via nested coherence correction, constantly steering back towards their coherent blueprint.
And this happens everywhere.
It seems to appear across all scales. DNA repair mechanisms acting as molecular fidelity loops, cellular signaling cascades performing coherence ripple tuning, cognitive processing showing neural coherence rebound, even social systems self-organizing around shared values, or galactic dynamics potentially using dark matter for phase feedback. Each of these acts like a coherence-preserving attractor, pulling systems back towards alignment away from simple dissipation.
So if there's this drive towards realignment, is there a limit? Can a system deviate too far before it just can't recover, like a machine broken beyond repair?
Yes, absolutely. That's where realignment thresholds and phase integrity come in. For a system to recover, it has to stay within a feedback recovery envelope, a certain band of deviation where realignment is still possible.
Okay.
If it exceeds that envelope symbolically off here, where low is the deviation and Planck is the critical threshold, you get irreversible fragmentation, energy dispersion, loss of its unique coherence identity.
It falls apart.
Right. But what's fascinating is that systems operating near the edge of this envelope, while riskier, often show high creativity or adaptability. They're constantly pushing boundaries, forced to continually realign, which can drive innovation and evolution.
Interesting trade-off. Stability versus creativity.
Exactly. And this framework also distinguishes coherence-driven homeodynamics from traditional homeostasis. Homeostasis is about maintaining a fixed equilibrium, like body temperature.
Right.
Homeodynamics instead describes active, feedback-driven modulation of coherence through dynamic conditions. Systems don't stay fixed. They oscillate with intolerances, adapting and learning through phase-responsive feedback. Dynamic stability.
Example.
Heart rate variability, a sign of adaptive coherence in health. Circadian cycles resonance-tuned timekeeping. The immune response modulating itself based on coherent signatures. Even economic or tech systems adapting via recursive phase-aware feedback, leading to ideas like intelligent governance.
It's intelligent governance.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And this leads towards conscious self-regulation. Can we intentionally realign with coherence, or is it all automatic? Does our awareness play a role?
According to the paper, yes, the highest expression of this negentropic feedback is conscious realignment, where a system like a conscious being can perceive its own deviation from coherence and intentionally correct it.
Oh.
Think of deeply meditative brain states showing resonant entrainment with higher order fields. spiritual experiences, perhaps understood as conscious realignment to metacoherent structures, moments of creative insight, integrating previously divergent coherent strands. It could even extend to that civilizational governance idea where collective awareness becomes the meta-feedback layer, enabling deliberate coherence recovery on a grand scale.
So consciousness isn't just watching, it's participating.
It's potentially the ultimate feedback mechanism, allowing for intentional, informed restoration of coherence.
So coherent systems aren't just stable. They're actively remembering, course-correcting based on their origin, their blueprint. The gentropy isn't a mystery. It's the natural behavior of coherence-informed systems.
Precisely. It's the compass of continuity, always guiding systems back towards their optimal coherent state, their true identity. It suggests an inherent drive towards self-organization, persistence, and evolution in the universe. #8. Quantum scale cohesion and entanglement.
Okay, the claim is this framework unifies everything. So let's test that. What about the quantum realm? The really spooky stuff, entanglement, non-locality, particles seemingly communicating instantly across space.
Yeah.
How does coherence explain that without paradoxes or breaking light speed?
Right, the ultimate test case, maybe. And this is where the framework becomes, I think, particularly elegant. It aims to demystify quantum behavior. Quantum phenomena, often seen as paradoxical or just plain weird,
Definitely weird.
are here reinterpreted as the expression of partial coherence within a limited dimensional projection. It's not mysterious, it's actually closer to the source, to fundamental coherence.
Closer. How so?
The quantum world is seen as the first, maybe the rawest, unfolding of coherence into dimensionality before full differentiation happens. So take quantum coherence itself. A system in superposition multiple states at once isn't just a haze of probabilities. Here, it's a partially reduced coherent state, still retaining deep coherence with its full UFT origin.
Okay.
And the collapse upon observation, not a destruction of reality. It's reinterpreted as phase selection due to external coherence interference. The system simply chooses one coherent pathway from its potentials, like a prism selecting one color from white light.
Phase selection, not collapse.
Yeah.
Got it. What about entanglement then? That's the big one.
Entanglement as a shared coherence pathway. The paper argues it's not action at a distance, which seems to violate locality. Instead, entangled particles are different projections of a single coherent structure that hasn't fully decohered or separated from its shared origin.
So they're still connected fundamentally.
Yes, the underlying coherence of the original unified field remains shared between them, like two branches connected to the same root, even if they appear separate in our dimensional projection. The paper proposes entangled state, bivectorial coherence reduction. Two particles arise from the splitting of one coherent structure.
Vectorial. Right?
So when you measure one, you select a phase branch, and the other is immediately resonantly locked onto the same coherence tensor pathway. This removes the need for faster-than-light signals because, as the paper puts it, coherence never lost is coherence not needing to be sent. They were always connected at that deeper level.
Wow. Okay, that dissolves the paradox, if true. And decoherence, then, the loss of quantum weirdness.
Yeah.
Is that just coherence breaking down?
Yes, precisely. Decoherence is the dissolution of that coherence envelope that maintained the superposition. It happens when the phase gradient exceeds the realignment threshold, or resonant pathways get overwhelmed by incoherent interactions from the environment. The system's inherent pattern no longer maps to a sustainable coherence mode, so it reverts to classical behavior. It links directly back to feedback failure and resonance instability.
Okay. And quantum tunneling, particles going through walls.
Reinterpreted as resonant phase tunneling, not rule breaking, but phase continuity of coherence across a potential barrier. The particle isn't jumping through, its underlying coherent structure remains unbroken, allowing it to reappear coherently on the other side.
So the barrier isn't absolute.
It's seen as a dimensional phase discontinuity, not an insurmountable wall. Tunneling probability increases with coherence phase alignment. It becomes a projection phenomenon, not a violation. And finally, the paper touches on quantum memory and systemic recurrence. Systems with high coherence memory can show recurrence effects, like spin echo, where a state is recovered after perturbation. This implies phase-preserving information storage.
Crucial for quantum computing.
Absolutely. And maybe for understanding biological quantum coherence in microtubules, maybe even in olfaction. It's all about preserving access to the coherence tensor pathway the system came from, allowing it to remember and return to its coherent state.
So the quantum world isn't strange because it's different, but because it's so close to the fundamental coherence, before it gets fully differentiated and looks normal to us.
Precisely. It's not an anomaly. It's perhaps the clearest window we have into the universe's foundational principles. It reveals the underlying rules of coherence and its reduction in their rawest form. It's less weird, more fundamental. Hashtag #99. Cosmic cohesion and the role of dark forces.
Okay, from the tiniest quantum scales, let's zoom way out now, to the vastness of the cosmos, galaxies, the expanding universe itself. How does this coherence framework explain them, especially those huge mysteries? Dark matter and dark energy, they make up, what, 95% of the universe, and we barely know what they are.
Right. If quantum coherence is the microscale phase structure, then cosmic cohesion is its macroscopic projection. And what mainstream cosmology calls dark matter and dark energy are reinterpreted here quite radically, not as new particles or forces necessarily, as coherent stabilization fields. Invisible to our current detectors, maybe, but structurally necessary for phase continuity and systemic integrity across the entire cosmos. They're seen as inherent to reality's fabric, not just add-ons.
Okay, coherent stabilization fields. Let's start with galactic cohesion. Why do galaxies hold together, rotate the way they do?
Well, galaxies like our Milky Way show behaviors like stars rotating too fast out on the edges that challenge standard gravity based on visible matter alone, instead of just invoking unseen particles everywhere.
Which feels a bit like patching the theory.
Right. This framework proposes galactic structure is stabilized primarily by these deep coherence gradients, not just local gravity wells. It's about macro-resonant alignment within a galactic coherence tensor. So cohesion comes from nested resonance fields interlocking visible matter with non-visible coherence fields, sustaining spiral arms through phase lock, and coupling the galaxy's rotation to deeper filamentary structures in the cosmic web.
So dark matter gets redefined entirely here. Not particles, but...
Redefined as a coherence gradient field, a spatially extended phase structuring tensor. Its job is to align baryonic matter into stable cosmic shapes.
Why is it invisible then?
Because it operates below the full reduction threshold that would make it interact electromagnetically, but it does interact gravitationally because it preserves curvature via coherence resonance.
Oh.
This could explain gravitational lensing around apparently empty regions, or actually coherence wells. It explains galaxy clustering along dark filaments, seen here as phase attractor pathways, and maybe even subtle coherence echoes in the cosmic microwave background.
Okay, that's a completely different take on dark matter. What about dark energy? The universe expanding faster and faster.
Also completely reinterpreted, dark energy is reframed not as a repulsive force pushing things apart, but as the anti-decoherence pressure of the coherence vacuum pushing against entropy.
Anti-decoherence pressure.
Yeah. It doesn't accelerate expansion through negative pressure. It modulates the coherence boundary conditions of spacetime itself. It drives entropic expansion, remember, the return of coherence through the dimensional unwrapping of the coherence field.
Unwrapping.
Like reality unfolding into new dimensions of coherence. It only appears repulsive because it operates beyond the matter gradient threshold we're familiar with. And the vacuum in this view isn't empty, it's coherence-rich, and this intrinsic richness drives expansion as a resonance release process.
A coherence-rich vacuum-driving expansion.
Wow.
And the large-scale structure, the cosmic web.
Seen as the cosmic web as a coherence resonance lattice. Those filaments, voids, nodes, it's not random gravitational clumping. It's interpreted as a resonance lattice. Galaxies and clusters align along these resonant coherence lines like nodes on a vast cosmic standing wave.
Okay.
This structure preserves multi-scale phase resonance from the early universe, guides matter flow through coherence corridors, and acts as a macroscopic coherence engine, constantly redistributing energy and phase alignment, ensuring ongoing cosmic organization.
And extreme objects.
Yeah.
Quasars, black holes.
Reinterpreted as coherence phase transducers, not just singularities. They act as dynamic engines in the web. They absorb localized coherence collapse, effectively recycling it.
Recycling coherence.
Yes, realigning and reprojecting it, like in powerful quasar jets. They maintain the balance of dimensional emergence. They might even encode memory of universal coherence pathways, acting like phase inversion nodes in a vast harmonic system, constantly retuning the universe.
So the cosmos isn't governed by separate invisible matter and energy, but by these underlying coherence structuring fields that stabilize, align, and evolve the very fabric of form across all time and scale. It's an active, maybe even intelligent universe.
That's the core shift. A
Yeah.
universe governed by active coherence, where every phenomenon is an expression of its dynamic reduction and resonant stabilization. Self-organizing, remembering, perpetually regenerating, all from this one fundamental principle. Hashtag tag tag 10, coherence engines and the design of stable systems.
Okay, this concept of coherence engines, that sounds really intriguing. Like it could apply to almost anything stable, from a cell to a star, maybe even future tech we can't imagine yet.
Mm.
What exactly is a coherence engine? It sounds like more than just a machine.
It is, much more. A coherence engine is defined as any system, natural or artificial, that dynamically maintains or restores coherence. How? Through sophisticated symmetry modulation, precise resonance alignment, and continuous feedback correction. And stability in this context isn't just passive equilibrium, like a rock sitting still. It's actively defined by the system's dynamic capacity to realign with its coherence origin when perturbed.
Its ability to bounce back to its coherent state.
Exactly. Where normal, entropy-driven systems decay without intervention, coherence engines actively resist entropy. They restructure asymmetry. They feed coherence back into emergent layers, enabling perpetual renewal. They're fundamental to atomic integrity, biological intelligence, stellar function, quasar dynamics, maybe even artificial intelligence.
What are their core functions then? What do they do?
They're constantly working. They modulate asymmetry back into resonance. They restore phase alignment when things get disordered.
Right.
They route coherence flow into structured emergence, creating and maintaining form. And they actively recycle coherence from collapse zones, preventing total loss. Essentially, they're the fundamental phase regulators of reality's ongoing emergence.
Keeping the universe tuned, basically.
That's a good way to put it. Constantly ensuring it remains organized, dynamic, and evolving. And nature, the paper emphasizes, is absolutely full of these sophisticated natural coherence engines. At the quantum atomic scale, you have electron orbitals precisely tuned by resonance, spin networks maintaining coherence. At the biological scale, self-repairing cells using epigenetic coherence feedback. Microtubules potentially acting as coherence routers in neurons, DNA preserving harmonic information, even concepts like chakras or biofields possibly acting as scalar phase modulators for physiological balance.
Okay, connecting to some more esoteric ideas there too.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And at the stellar cosmic scale, stars radiating structured plasma along resonance pathways, quasar cores transducing collapsed coherence, black holes acting as coherence inverters and spacetime regulators, recycling cosmic energy.
Okay, so if nature is full of these, can we build them? Does this framework give us new engineering principles beyond just fighting entropy?
Absolutely. The paper strongly suggests that artificial and engineered coherent systems represent a totally new class of technology, a paradigm shift from our current approach of brute force and energy consumption.
Like what? What could we build?
Imagine intelligent architectures AIs built on dynamic coherence logic, not just binary, enabling intuitive, holistic processing, learning in new ways.
Wow.
Or coheraputers computing via phase resonance and coherence routing, tapping into reality's fabric for incredible speed and efficiency.
Okay.
Even vacuum modulation devices potentially extracting structured energy directly from the coherence vacuum via phase alignment. Or gravity phase drives propulsion by realigning coherence vectors, not expelling mass, revolutionizing space travel.
That sounds like science fiction.
It does now, but the principles are laid out. These aren't machines in the old sense. They're harmonic field processors, designed to actively restore and maintain alignment with fundamental coherence. And the paper even outlines the basic structure of a coherence engine. 3 core subsystems, universally present. A modulation core adjusts phase input for optimal alignment. A feedback loop detects deviation and routes correction harmonics. And a projection matrix expresses the maintained coherence into structured output mass, form, energy, info.
Governed by a coherence equation of motion.
Yes, indicating the mathematical foundation for these designs exists, at least theoretically. And to work, they need to meet design criteria for coherence stability, maintain eigenmode compatibility across nested zones, avoid decoherence thresholds, have feedback latency faster than collapse rate, enable adaptive modulation of internal asymmetry. This defines a stability envelope where function, resilience, and evolution are possible.
So this is a massive shift from conventional machines that consume energy, create waste, break down. These coherence generators actively resist decay, self-stabilize, return to optimum. It really does feel like moving from a mechanistic universe to an organic, self-sustaining, maybe even living one.
Indeed. From galaxies forming to potential quantum computers to cells repairing themselves, coherence engines are the systems that refuse to collapse because they inherently know how to realign. They're the blueprint for persistent, adaptive, evolving reality at every scale. A universe designed for continuous self-renewal. Hashtag tag 11. The principle of resonant continuity.
Okay, this entire deep dive has painted a picture of a universe woven from coherence, reducing into form, resonating into stable structures. It's a truly grand, unifying vision. What's the ultimate takeaway? Is there a foundational law this framework points to governing everything?
Yes, the paper culminates with what it calls the principle of resonant continuity. It essentially states that all emergence, all structure, all intelligence is the consequence of coherence sustained through dimensional phase transitions.
Coherence sustained.
Yes. What survives, from the tiniest quantum flicker to the infinite cosmos, is what remains resonant, what maintains its coherent signature through all changes. It's not just persistence of form, it's the survival of coherence pattern through collapse, transition, reemergence, feedback, and self-reflection.
So it's the pattern that endures.
The coherent pattern. In essence, resonant continuity is described as the coherence memory of the universe, a cosmic blueprint that's always striving to restore itself. And this continuity rests on the three pillars of resonant continuity, a kind of trinity ensuring the universe's persistent organization. First, the coherence gradient, always driving emergence from higher phase fields into differentiated form.
Creating novelty.
Right? Second, feedback correction, perpetually restoring phase from local distortion, allowing self-regulation and recovery.
Maintaining stability.
And third, fractal recursion, embedding coherence across multiple nested scales, ensuring self-similarity and applying the same principles everywhere.
Connecting everything.
Exactly. This trinity, the paper asserts, guarantees that what aligns survives. And this principle of continuity as fundamental is argued to be visible across every scale. Subatomic particles maintain identity through spin phase locking. Atoms molecules sustain identity through harmonic orbital overlap. Cell organs persist via bioelectric feedback and structured nudge entropy.
Organisms through memory. Immune feedback.
Right. Societies through culture, law, maybe intelligent governance. Galaxies remain stable via phase-coupled dark coherence fields. The entire cosmos evolves via recursive coherence cascades modulated by hypergravity. It suggests a universe that doesn't fundamentally break, but transforms while retaining its core coherence patterns.
If this holds true, then consciousness must play a pivotal role, mustn't it? It can't just be a side effect of brain chemistry if resonant continuity is this fundamental.
It does, and this is arguably the most profound implication. The paper proposes consciousness isn't a byproduct, but the coherence-preserving operator of self-awareness.
The coherence-preserving operator?
Yes. It plays an active role. It detects phase deviation in ourselves, our environment. It can modulate coherence intentionally, allowing us to align the self with its origin across time-bridging memory, present awareness, future projection.
So consciousness is the agent of coherence continuity.
That's the proposal. Not an epiphenomenon, but potentially the field regulator of dimensional alignment, memory, and emergent identity. A vital component in the universe's ongoing self-organization and self-renewal, giving us an active role in this cosmic dance. And the paper synthesizes this entire framework into a powerful, symbolic, final equation. Shashti.
Okay, break that down some.
It means an infinite coherent source cascades through n-dimensional gradients, structuring itself into resonant tensors, reg, which ultimately results in emergent stable systems, stable. This symbolic cascade represents the universal law the paper builds towards. Stability is the consequence of sustained coherence across nested resonance. It's the ultimate statement of how everything comes to be and how it persists. And the paper's closing reflection really leaves you thinking. It's quite poetic. Entropy dissolves what cannot remember how it was made. But coherent structures that realign become immortal patterns. They persist through collapse, reemerge from noise, and regenerate identity across emergence.
Immortal patterns.
Yes. It concludes, resonant continuity is the engine of existence. Everything that is real endures through it. Everything that falls apart forgets it. It's a powerful statement about resilience and the enduring nature of reality based on coherence. Hashtag outro.
So what does this all really mean for us sitting here trying to grasp it? This incredible framework suggests a universe that isn't just inevitably decaying towards heat death, ruled by entropy. Instead, it's actively preserving and regenerating itself through this constant dance of coherence reduction and resonant realignment. It implies a universe that somehow remembers how it was made, a universe constantly striving to realign, to sustain its own integrity. It feels less like a machine winding down and more like a living, breathing, self-correcting entity.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it leaves us with a truly profound question, doesn't it? A thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Yeah.
If everything that is truly real endures through this resonant continuity, if stability is fundamentally about a system's ability to realign with its coherence origin, to remember its blueprint, what then does that imply about our own capacity for resilience and evolution?
As individuals and as a species.
Exactly. Both as individuals facing challenges and as a collective navigating complexity.
Mhm.
Are we too fundamentally coherence engines? Are we capable of intentional realignment with a deeper pattern, perhaps even our highest potential, tapping into that same resonant continuity that structures the cosmos?
A truly fascinating and maybe even hopeful thought to dwell on. This deep dive into Philip Randolph Lilien's resonant cohesion and coherence reduction has certainly given us a powerful new lens, a different way to view reality, a unified theory trying to connect the micro, the macro, mind, and matter.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. We hope it sparked some deep thinking for you, too, and maybe a new appreciation for the intricate, coherent dance that reality might just be. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.